Well, we know that the Queen City has strong ties to music. From Bootsy Collins to James Brown, we've had some huge names shape our community. And now there's a book that takes a look at some of this history. And to tell us more, I want to welcome Steven Tracy, the author behind Going to Cincinnati, A History of the Blues in the Queen City. Steven, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here, Mona. I love the song that Bo Diddley wrote about you.
Now, Steven, you live on the East Coast, so why write a book about Cincinnati?
Well, actually, I grew up in Cincinnati, and I lived in Cincinnati for 40 years, and then I came to the University of Massachusetts, where I've been for the past 25 years, and became a distinguished professor of Afro-American Studies at UMass, and also a distinguished overseas professor of African American Studies at Central China Normal University. So I started out in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati was where I thought I was going to always stay. It didn't happen that way.
What kind of research did you do for this particular book?
Yeah. The research was really quite easy and quite enjoyable. What I did was I began thinking about becoming involved in documenting the blues in some kind of way, and that documentation, as far as I was concerned, had to occur in Cincinnati because that's where I was, and other people were doing other areas of the country, and it made only sense for me to do the documentation in Cincinnati. So what I had to do was enjoy the music of Cincinnati, which was very easy to do, and then I also had to start doing a lot of grunt work, which I found to be really quite enjoyable. If you can imagine, I went down to the downtown library and went to the street directories for the 1920s and 1930s, and I looked up different streets that I knew about that were mentioned in songs that were recorded by artists who played in Cincinnati, like George Street. Then I would find people like Walter Coleman and Bob Cole and Kid Cole and different people living in certain addresses on those streets, which started to give me more and more connections. So it's kind of nerdish, but it was very exciting for me to find these names in these street directories from the 1920s.
Was there anything that really stood out in your mind about blues in the Queen City?
Oh yes, King Records has so much to do with it because people knew Cincinnati blues by King Records, and so the people who recorded there, like Freddie King, Charlie Hooker, and Tiny Bradshaw, and various other people, these people were big stars in the rhythm and blues field, and so people came to know the label of Cincinnati, and they came to know a kind of sound that was associated a lot in a sense with the studio musicians who played in Cincinnati in the late 1940s and the 50s and 60s.
Steven, how can people pick up this book or any of the others you've written?
Well, I think you could find me on Amazon, or on Barnes and Noble and different places like that. If you just look up Steven with a V, C Tracy, you'll find somewhere around 30 different books or so that have my name on the cover at some point.
All right, Steven, thank you so much for talking to us today.
It is great to have been here, and I hope that King Records and Society players and everything like that get the infamy that they deserve.